This is the Lyndsay Stafford Show.
Welcome back to the Lyndsay Stafford Show. We are so excited to have you listening today. I am here with Darryll Stinson. Here on the podcast today, we're going to talk about some very cool things. Daryl's an author of a couple books, but I'm going to give you an intro. I'm going to actually read the back, and I'll let you talk a little bit about it.
Read the back of that one.
So,
read the back of the green.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll show the books here while we get started.
Bam.
So Daryll was a D1 athlete. Okay, I'm going to read the whole thing.
Yep.
Co-founder of Seeding Greatness, a movement of leaders restoring the planet and helping humanity to heal through their stories and transformational service. Love it so far. As a former D1 athlete, we can have a lot of dialogue here.
Yeah.
Daryll overcame multiple suicide attempts to become a multiple best-selling author and 2-time TEDx speaker with more than 2 million views. Incredible. And I love your mission. His accolades as a top 100 athlete in 2008, award-winning higher ed communications professional, number 9 suicide awareness speaker. Thank you for your work in 23. And TEDx organizer attest to the impact of his work. He's coached hundreds of speakers to reach millions of people while growing themselves and their businesses at the same time.
Yes.
And also, I learned this morning. I didn't know all of this, but he enjoys nature walks, live theater, personal development events. I would have imagined that. And spending time with your wife, Brittany, and 4 children, Ava, Ariana, Amaya, Isaiah, and his dog, Magic. And we have one more baby on the way for the magic number 5.
Magic number 5.
Which I told you, I'm the oldest of 5. I would have had 5 kids if it was up to me. So we didn't. I have just the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So thank you. So you have, when does your wife due?
She's going to be due end of November.
Okay. Good time.
Yeah. Our son, the youngest baby, we got 3 girls and a boy. His birthday is at the end of November.
Oh, cool.
So we're just hoping that they don't have to share
a birthday.
You know what I mean? But
the more kids you have, the higher chance you have of that happening.
That is true. we spread them out pretty good though.
Yeah. November, what are the other ones?
November, January, April, July.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Otherwise the budget's all like, oh gosh, this is like a birthday month. There's so much going on.
I totally
So do you know what she's having?
We may know, but
you're not sharing.
It's not time yet.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh, okay. Got it. Hey, that's cool. I respect everybody's. I was no, tell me. I want to know.
I want to know immediately.
Yeah.
But
always.
Yeah, but
okay, so you've got 2 books, Who Am I After Sports? And you walked in and Daryl's 6'5", you said, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, how tall do you think I am? And he nailed it. He said, you're 5'2". It wasn't even a question. Baby. I was like, I'm like 5'2.5" though.
At sports, you learn how to measure them up real quick.
Totally.
Yeah.
And is it true that everybody publishes false numbers for how tall they are?
Totally. I always say I was 6'5", but I was 6'7" for recruiting. And then basketball, I had a fro, so I was 6'9", baby.
I love that.
I know.
We got 2 players on the JV team at Page that are, I think they're 6'6".
Oh, wow.
And
nice.
they're both can dunk. And
yeah.
They've been playing ball with my son for several years now, all through middle school. It's really fun to watch them. But okay, so you're an athlete. So this totally stuck out to me as a mom of a ball player who, of course, wants to go play D1. I think most ball players, that's their goal.
Yeah.
Which I found this out this week. This is kind of unbelievable because you're in Franklin. So Page High School is where my kids go, and I'm pretty involved in the school district. I work with Williamson County Schools. And we had 3 players go to D1 last year from Page basketball.
Okay.
When you think about like 10, 12 kids on the team, maybe about 30%, 20-30% are going to a D1 school. That's a pretty high number, right?
Yeah.
That can't be normal.
No. It's normal with championship culture, though.
Yeah.
It's what I would expect if I was a coach.
Our coaches, the coaching staff, Coach Street, Coach McNutt, Coach Tinsley are phenomenal.
Yeah,
we are so fortunate to have them as coaches.
Bet,
honestly, they blow me away. So talk to us about your journey to where you are and what you're doing now.
Totally, man. Where do I start? I always start in the beginning because I think that's our pain always becomes our purpose, right? So, not fitting in, being teased for being a black kid that talks and acts white.
Did you grow up here?
No, I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. About an hour south of Lansing. And so, or an hour west of Detroit.
Yeah, however you put it.
However people want it, right? And no, it's not a smaller Detroit, so please don't call us that. But Tony Dungy actually is from my hometown, Jackson, Michigan. So I say me and him are the only famous people from there. It's not true. If I said that from Jackson, it'd be 8 people that beat me up.
Yeah.
But just a little funny joke, right? So yeah, I never really fit in. I got teased for being a guy that wanted to have perfect attendance, and it caused me to question everything about myself. And ultimately, I changed everything about my core identity to fit in with other people.
Wow.
I started skipping school, selling drugs, running the streets, getting in fights, just living out of character. All to gain acceptance of, essentially this African-American community that was in
Were
my
you the
neighborhood.
minority there? Or
I was the minority in my classes because I was in accelerated learning classes. But in my community, there's tons of, people that look like me.
okay.
I just didn't act like them.
Yeah.
And so, it caused me to get picked and teased and bullied. And so I had to change in order to survive and in order to fit in. And, sports became sort of another mask that I could wear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people didn't care if I talked black or white, if I was studious or if I was street. All they cared about is the fact that I was playing against all these athletes around the nation, Draymond Green, Michael Jordan's son, Brandon Jennings, like a ton of athletes that are still phasing out of the NBA and NFL now. They were just, caught up in that. And I got intoxicated with that attention. Like, yeah, look at me. I'm playing in all these games. I'm top 100 athlete in the U.S. Oh my God. And what's the
And this was high school or
this
college?
was all throughout high school.
Because you were probably ranked in high
too.
school, I imagine.
Yep, I was ranked in middle school, high school, always on the radar. And then, probably my sophomore to senior year in high school is really when I was high on the charts. Yeah, both football and basketball primarily.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually went to Central Michigan University to play both because I didn't want to choose between NBA or NFL. I wanted to sort of like see what I liked to play at the higher level. And long story short, man, I'll never forget where my coach came and he's looking at me and Antonio Brown. I don't know if you follow football. But he says it's not a matter of if you guys are going to go to the NFL. It's just a matter of when. I was a true freshman. Antonio Brown was a sophomore. Antonio Brown left 2 years later, became one of the top 10 receivers to play in the NFL. In my opinion, and many others. And then I was, a couple months later, rushed to an emergency room to have back surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Totally.
What happened? So did you choose football or basketball?
I chose both. I went to college to play both.
And you played both at a D1 school?
I did not.
Okay.
Football paid my scholarship.
Got it.
And I got there and then they said, psych, you can't play both anymore. Yeah, they didn't want me to get hurt. And part of it was that they were going to redshirt me my freshman year, but then I came and performed really well and they were like, we could actually use you for pass rushes. And so they were like, we don't want you to get hurt playing basketball.
Got it.
And they had my scholarship, so they
did what you had to do.
Exactly, yeah. So the basketball coach wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And I didn't know I could stand up. I just thought, okay, I got to do what they tell me. Yeah. If I knew better, I would have told them forget that I'm playing both. That was the deal.
Yeah.
So I came back and actually played for 2 years after this back surgery, but it was because I was addicted to opioids. And I was numbing my back with painkillers, epidural injections. I was killing nerves so that I could not feel the pain sensations run through my spine. And me hurt was better than the next guy fully healthy. So I just kind of kept it going. I was taking so many opioids, it was thinning my blood to every time I made contact on the field, my nose would bleed. So coaches saw that something was wrong. They kicked me off the team. And then I was forced to face all the insecurity that the busyness and the success was masking.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I'll pause to say, I find out a lot of people find themselves in that wrestle between I have this persona, I have this identity, I have this success I have to keep up with. And that sort of becomes the mask that covers my insecurity, the parts of me that I don't want people to see, and
trauma,
all that stuff,
PTSD.
And so mine got taken away. The problem is that most people can keep running their machine. Well, my machine got halted by an injury. I couldn't restart it. And because I didn't think I would be fulfilled by anything else other than sports, I knew I would be great at other things. I didn't think I'd be fulfilled by anything other than sports. I essentially imploded. Right. I tell people whatever you don't express, you suppress. So I didn't talk. Hey, I didn't express that my feelings were hurt. I didn't say, hey, I'm depressed. Hey, I'm addicted to opioids. Hey, I don't know who I am outside of sports. I suppressed that.
And you were 19, 20?
I was 20, 19, 20 in that age range, right? Don't know no better. Yeah. Not prepared for the workforce. I had the right degree, but didn't pay attention in school because I thought I didn't need to. And then I only had 1 year to prepare for the workforce. So, ultimately I imploded. Because that's what happens when you suppress. It's only a matter of time before you implode or explode. and I imploded on myself and, attempted, suicide multiple times. And I ended up in a psychiatric unit in Detroit, Michigan.
Wow.
After my mother admitted me there. Yeah.
Can't imagine. How many siblings do you have?
I have, now I have 4.
I can't imagine how hard that must have been for your mom to make that decision. I mean, praise the Lord she did, because obviously you are where you are now.
Totally.
When you think about, I want to hit on a couple things before we get more into your story and where you got now, but what you talked about, filling your life and your day so full that you don't know what's actually happening inside of you.
Yes.
I think there's a couple ways. We'll talk about young people now. I think social media, the internet, games, all of what's accessible on your phone does that now.
Totally.
And there's not even like a stopping point because it's just always there. So that's like, I want you to talk about that a little bit, about how you suggest to combat that as young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I also am curious, when you stopped playing sports and had to reflect on, okay, what's going on in my head that's making me have these feelings and these thoughts. Was there a moment where you were like, I got to change, something's wrong, or was it forced?
Totally. Which one do you want to answer first?
You decide.
I'll just answer the second because that's top of mind.
Yeah.
Because that's actually where I'm at in the story. Is like the psychiatric unit is the moment that changed it all. I didn't choose the change. The change chose me. Right. I think Michael Beckwith said that pain pushes until the vision pulls. So sometimes life has to get so painful that we're finally like, I'll change. I'll do what I know I'm supposed to do. I'll drop the mask. I'll stop the busyness. Or sometimes we just get so connected to vision of what's possible when we actually stop, of what's possible when we actually shift, that we go, okay, I so love the vision of what can be that I'll change. For me, pain had to push me. I hit rock bottom. Yeah. I wanted out. And God sent 2 angels into that psychiatric unit and told me to say yes to God. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I was agnostic.
Oh, wow.
But I just said it. And when I said that, all the depression that I was facing immediately left. And it was like I had this little bit of a hope. I was like, hey, there's a reason why you're here on this planet. Yeah. And I was desperate, committed to find out what that reason was. And so I went on a journey for a couple of years of like researching every major world religion, every book you could read on purpose and meaning, investing and coaches and leadership experiences, everything, taking all those like self-discovery assessments, just trying to find me. And all signs kept going back to speaker, leader, thought leader, spiritual leader, whatever type of, vocal communicator, leader I'm supposed to be in this world. It all was pointing back to that direction. And I just had to develop it because that, of course, was one of my deepest insecurities. I used to be so afraid to speak in front of people that I used to fake like I had to go to the bathroom during icebreakers so that people wouldn't call on me and ask me to introduce myself to the room.
And now look at what you're doing.
Totally. 9-day difference. Yeah. 9-day difference. Wow. Yeah, totally. So for me, life had to force me to change. I didn't choose it.
Well, I'm a Christian and I grew up in a Christian home. So I never went through that period of, which is such a gift that my parents gave us to be able to grow up in a Christian home, right? Yeah. Knowing no matter what, this is your faith. We have this rock. Right. This is what life is all about, right? This is actually your foundation for life. And I think as a parent now, and you have 4 kids, 1 on the way, 4 and a dog, and 1 on the way, 1 kid on the way, not dog on the way. Yeah. I don't know how parents survive without faith. Yeah, right. I really don't. And I don't know how you educate your children without having that as a foundation because they go through so many things. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about how that shift has made you different as a human.
My faith?
Yeah.
It's like everything.
Right. But like from before and after, like talk about that.
I wish I could show you a picture right now. Pictures
well,
worth
if
1,000
you can send
words,
it
right?
in.
I'll send it in, right?
Yeah.
But picture like if you had to cast for a movie, a character with a 6'5" street punk, that was me. I mumbled, I talked street, what up, and I sling drugs, primarily weed and alcohol. I always got to, clarify that. Not that it's better per se, but like it is even slinging crack or cocaine. And so, you know, that was me before I always say that even as an agnostic person, I knew God was real. I knew I had a calling. It was just a faint whisper,
Mm-hmm.
and I ignored the whisper. And so me after is listening to the whispers, is connecting to God and the reason why I'm here and what he's doing in the world and how I can be a part of that work. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if we say, I could talk about the spirit and how he leads us in our life, but we can also talk about faith from the standpoint of what we believe
Mm-hmm.
and how our thoughts affect our feelings, which produce our actions, which produce our results. And so even just the thought that I'm here for a bigger reason every morning is a very empowering thought. Like
Very true.
If you Colossians says, whatever you do, work wholeheartedly as unto the Lord. And it's like, imagine if every day you just woke up like, man, I'm working for a purpose greater than myself. It doesn't matter if you're like cutting the grass or,
Right.
Mopping a floor, or if you're leading a $1 billion company. You're going to elevate your game as a leader because of what your mindset is connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, faith informs everything because it informs thoughts, which informs our reality.
It's so true. You bring me back to one summer. I think I was driving. I know that because I had a friend that my car overheated and he put water in my oil instead of in my whatever.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was bad. But I was driving my Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee Wagoneer. It was a 1988. It was old at the time when I was driving it.
Totally.
But anyways, I worked as a breakfast server at Higgins Beach Inn in Scarborough, Maine, which is where I went to high school, Scarborough High School in Maine, New England.
Okay.
And I worked there, I think 1, maybe 2 summers. So I had the early breakfast shift. And to this day, I still remember, it was, a long time ago, a guest saying, how are you so happy right now? And it was like 7:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock. I had to be there at 6, I think, to start. And I just remember, I'm a young kid, so I don't know how to explain this, but I just remember thinking, like, it's God.
Right.
It's just God. Like, that's just what I'm happy because I'm here.
Totally.
But I didn't know how to articulate that as a child, as a teenager. But what you're saying is so true. When you embrace every moment and every day that, like, I am here and it's not about me. It's about serving other people and doing for others and fulfilling my purpose in life from our Creator. You just approach life a different way. You have a different filter.
Yes.
So now talk about what you're doing today.
Totally. Helping leaders to get their messages out there into the world. So I spent a lot of my career sharing my message, and I always have coached and mentored speakers on the side, but not at the level that I have the last 5 to 7 years, because I just got to this point where I was just like speaking a ton, stage every week, this stage, that stage, sharing my story, crying my heart out, helping, just changing lives. And I was like, I'm gonna change the world. And I just realized, like, no matter how good I got, no matter how much I invested, there was gonna be people who just didn't like me, listen to me, or need me. Like, I feel like I can offer something to everyone because I'm every human being on the planet is a unique gift. And, they always add value when they show up authentically with who they are.
Yeah.
But like, they just didn't have a problem that was more pressing. And there was other people, I know this sounds silly, but there was like a moment for me. And I was like, dude, the only way the world is going to change if I empower other voices to get out here and share their message. And the ways in which I felt like I was leading the charge and doing it, which was vulnerability, our personal stories, the intimate details of our life on display, because I believe God's in the details and that he designed us with details. And so how we think, how we apply information, how we treat one another, the details of those interactions and stories is really where the sauce and the potency of our mentorship comes into play. Right. And so I help people to do that because a lot of people that are pouring out to others have a lot of unconscious competence. They just are like, I'm just good at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember somebody told me, you're so great with people. And they're like, oh, like, come talk about being great with people. And I'm like, this be nice.
Yeah. How do I teach that?
There's like nothing that goes into it. And then our staff started going through this book John Maxwell wrote, Winning with People. And they were like underlining a bunch of stuff and circling and highlighting the book. And I'm in here like, dude, I do this all like, there's actually a lot I am doing. It's in this book. I should have wrote the book Winning with People because I'm winning with people and not unconsciously. Unbeknownst to me, there's a whole operating system that got hardwired into me that is now being shared into the world. And so what I'm doing is helping people to put language to their hardwire.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
like
fully expressing that. Can you hear it in my voice? Because Daryll used to be like,
yeah.
But people don't move unless they're moved emotionally. So it doesn't matter how good your information is. I mean, how many people have watched Forks and Knives documentaries and haven't changed the darn thing about their behavior because they haven't made an emotional connection? But I tell you what, the moment that they get a terminal illness, the moment that they get some type of, God forbid, sickness or turmoil in their body, oh my God, they'll clean up real quick. They'll be connected to an emotion that provokes the change. Yeah. And so as leaders and communicators, we've got to give people some of that oomph in our voice and our messages so that we provoke them to change. And for me, I would notice early on that there were people in the audience who I could reach that I wasn't touching because I wasn't opening in this way.
Yeah.
I was like sort of open.
Right.
Polished.
Show like a little bit.
Oh, polished.
But not like the real.
Oh, come on, Lyndsay. And you know what they did? They gave me the courtesy clap.
Yeah.
You know what the courtesy clap is? It's the one that I do out of courtesy for you, even though I really didn't take as much away as I'm telling you that I took away.
It's the ones at BNI when people talk and they're like looking at their phone and they just sort of clap. Everyone's clapping. I should clap right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or somebody took obnoxiously long and nobody said stop. And then everyone's like, oh, cool. Great. That was great. Just because nobody wants to be the one to tell the person. It shows up everywhere. And I noticed it because remember my purpose of my point of pain, not fitting in. I wanted to fit in. So I could notice when people weren't being real with me. When they were like, oh my God, that was so life-changing. I'd be like, okay, really? What'd you take away?
Everything.
It was so good. They will start making up stuff and telling me something that I didn't even say. Matter of fact, some of them get so in pattern and out of body, they'll start quoting other speakers. I was like, dude, I said, what did I say? You started saying, well, it reminds me of when Tony Robbins said. Yeah. And I was like, Tony Robbins,
he's not here.
You weren't listening.
Yeah.
Why? Because I wasn't opening my heart enough, or I wasn't investing in my craft enough to change so that I could influence you 2 to 10% more and provoke you to take that action. And for me, that's worth it.
There's also just people that aren't going to tune. They're just not going to listen.
Oh yeah.
Because there's some.
Because they don't want to grow.
They don't want to grow.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that want to.
Want to grow. Yeah.
But the barrier is your ability.
Right.
Yes.
Because you can have a great message.
Yes.
And a great articulation, but if it's not crafted intentionally, then you'll miss a lot of people, right? Is what you're saying. So you help people share their message with other people. You teach them the framework on how to do that. So is that what we talk about in this system of self-care?
That's the third book. It's coming. I know you gotta wait for the third one.
Okay, wait a second.
I'm writing it right now.
Okay, these are the same, right?
Those are
so 4 life practices to improve mental health and performance. I love that you did the infinity.
Yes.
So my company is Stafford Solutions.
Okay.
And we help business owners cut through the chaos, make processes and systems more efficient, effective, and keep money in their pockets.
Okay.
So I help business owners.
Yes.
And when I did my assistant has been with me from Michigan, actually.
Oh.
For it's 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure. We've never met in person. Okay. She's worked remotely for me for that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I said, I want the infinity because I want business owners. I want our message to be anything infinitely as possible. It's just up to having the right
I like that.
System, tools, processes. So my logo for the S is.
I love that.
Starts with a.
I like the infinite possibility.
Yeah. Well, it's anything's possible. Totally. Business owners that I work with, a lot of them, they think they're like, I'm just good where I'm at. And it's like, no, you are capable of so much more. Let me help you see. So I do that for business owners, like what you do for people. Okay. You're capable of so much more, right? Let me show you. So, but this is all about self-care, conscious awareness. expression, relationships, activities.
Let me help you.
Yeah,
okay?
walk through it.
Because there's our life speaks louder than our lips. Okay, so I'm still speaking language of communication because some people think it's a different message. They think self-care is like mental health. Daryll, your ability to communicate and communications is over here. And I'm like, no, they are one and the same, because there's verbal communication and what people say is nonverbal, but I actually believe it's metaphysical. It's energetic. Okay, so your energy doesn't lie. Okay, so if you're talking about manifestation, but you're broke, you can have the best, most eloquent words and plans, but you won't actually be able to create millionaires because you're not one. Right? It's not congruent with where you are in your life. And so the system of self-care is about how am I living my life? How am I being my best student? Because as leaders who are here to change, lives, the things that we teach others are often the medicine that we're giving to ourselves. And so the system of self-care is it just gives you the opportunity to be a student of your own work. It's how am I paying attention to my own patterns and resistance to implementing that which I know? How am I using my movement in my body so that I can show up and give my best? How am I stewarding my relationships so that I make sure that I'm congruent and in alignment? How am I in full expression so that I'm giving all my energy and my best to the world? That's the care system. Conscious awareness, activities, relationships, expression.
I love that.
Okay. And when I do that, now when I open my mouth to communicate, I have a resonance that's only can be birthed from the consistency of implementing daily in my life. Does that make sense?
I love it. Completely.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking, if you were to talk to a room full of athletes, we'll say basketball because I have a ball player.
Okay.
I want to hear, what are some of the things that you would say to them? So if you were talking to a room of aspiring athletes that are aspiring to reach the collegiate level, that you have been there, done that, not for one sport, but for two.
Okay.
What are some of your key lessons that you would speak to them?
Oh, okay. Number one, athletes or anyone who desires to be one of the best in their industry, I teach a process. Okay. 3 things that you should always look to master if you want to be a master at anything. Okay. Your mindset, your skill set, your network. So I would literally be like mindset. Okay, people are performing at the level that they're performing because of how they think about themselves, how they think about their craft, how they think about their discipline. So I'm going to look for the best people in my industry, and I'm going to be neurotic about how much I'm studying what they think. Like I'm going to give them my problems and hear how they respond. You ever hear somebody say there are no problems? There's only our perception that there's a problem. That's the problem. And so when you give your problem to someone else, you get to see how their mindset doesn't see the problem, but yours does, and how you're projecting limitation onto your life. And so mindset is something that I would study and seek to duplicate amongst the best in my industry.
Love that.
Skill set. There's usually industry skills and task specific skills. So industry skills, maybe like customer service or sales, okay? Task specific might be, this is specific to my role. I've got to get really good at these task specific skills. So for athletes, that might be per their position group.
Sure.
For corporate employees, that might be whatever their role or title is, right? But there's industry skills and there's task specific skills that you want to make sure that you're practicing on and working on daily in order to improve so that you can become one of the best in the world. Okay, let me say this because this is probably the number one mistake people make. I never understood this in corporate. I never understood why we had quarterly reviews, annual reviews, maybe one weekly meeting. When I was an athlete, we watched practice film. So if we practice 5 days a week and we play a game once a week, we didn't just watch a game film. We watched practice film. Now, what the equivalent in corporate would be if I literally put a camera inside of our team meeting for the week, and then we watched it back the next day and go, how did we perform?
Yeah.
Now imagine if we actually did that and then made corrections. Oh, actually you held back. Oh, actually you said this 20 minutes in when you could have said that the first 5 minutes. Oh, actually it took us 30 minutes to get started. Well, actually we had an agenda, but we didn't stick to the agenda. Well, actually, imagine if we reviewed it and then made those changes 5 days a week versus 1 day a week.
And also to your point, there's a place for review process. And I had this conversation ironically with my dad yesterday. My dad and I, my parents live next door. We built houses next to each other.
Oh, fun. How
So
cute.
I work out every morning with my dad or walk.
Oh,
so every
that's the
morning we meet,
best.
we walk to the gym, we work out, we walk home, except Wednesdays because I have BNI. Sometimes we just walk instead of work out. Depends on the day, right?
Okay.
But he's my business coach. He's a successful businessman, retired now.
Okay.
But I have the fortune of having his ear
Yes.
and his mouth
Yes.
every single day to talk to me. So, so blessed. We were talking about the review process. There's no reason that anything on a review should be a surprise because you should be getting feedback constantly.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's what you're saying is we need to be getting the feedback and making changes all the time on what we're doing.
And faster. Because the thing about the metaphysical realm is it's not like sports where it's conditioned to the physical. Meaning that like, hey, I can watch myself play this week and then there's only so much more I can get better at. That's why we adopted the phrase in sports, 1% better. Yeah. Because that's probably the most by which we can change because there's a physical limitation. Yeah. The problem with like a metaphysical is that it's not limited to that. So you can actually get 20% better, 100% better, quantum leap better just by a mindset shift, just by a 30 to 90 days of consistently working on a industry or a task specific skill. Right. Okay. And so, but you gotta like double it with the review. So I want to make sure people are working on the skill, but working on it and reviewing it and iterating. Because it's not, you ever see like, there's a difference between having 20 years of experience and 1 year of experience 20 times. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to help people to prevent. Okay. And then the last is our network. And this is looking who they're connected to, who they're hanging around, how they're associating. And most people always go, well, I need more network. But what I always find to be true, doesn't matter what level people are at, talking about beginner or billionaire level. At both levels, we all are underutilizing our network. Totally. Okay. Anytime, and I always tell people this, if I were to grab your cell phone, I probably could double your business with your cell phone, your contacts, right? Because most people aren't even going through their own contacts and being like, hey, how can I serve the people whose numbers that I have? Yeah. Right? Like we're always trying to like post on social media and get organic reach. When it's like, how about you start with the reach you have? Yeah. Be faithful with a few, and God will entrust with more, money. Right? And people don't want that because that requires responsibility and stewardship. And we want
that could be a whole nother conversation. But because I know you have to go.
I know, that's why I ran my mouth so much.
I want you to tell us, where can we find you? Because this is great stuff. I mean, this is really good.
Totally. I want to scratch the surface too.
I want to have you come talk to the boys, the players.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm happy to.
Because I think what you have is a lot to offer, and getting in their mindset. We're really fortunate with our coaches. They do talk about all the things you're talking about. We have a fabulous coaching staff. But how much more can we always improve? The more experience, the more exposure, the more expertise we're surrounded with, the better we get. Yeah. So where can we find you and what's next for you?
Totally. I know you. This is good. You can find me at Stinson Speaks on all platforms, or just search my name, Darryll Stinson. I'm not hard to find. What I got next, I'm doing a retreat next week, Extracting Genius, Multiplying Impact. I think that's good. I host those events 2 times a year. I know people love 3 days with me, private chef, organic meals, walk and toss in nature, flesh out your frameworks, get you some reps and real-time feedback. And then also I always got surprises, but it's all in the spirit of helping you to get your message out to more people, charge higher fees, get more coaching clients, book more speaking engagements, sell more books. It's all thought leadership. I call it a message that turns into a movement.
I love it.
Okay. So your messaging can be your brand, your website, your, program name, your freaking, signature keynote. And then your movements, all your business operations, your podcast, your, coaching program, how you deliver the goods. And so it's literally when one iterates, the others have to iterate. Mm-hmm. And that is a constant demand and iteration.
No kidding.
If you're growing. Yep. You know this because how many of these podcasts have you done?
A lot.
Right. And you get better each time, don't you?
I hope so.
And you evolve each time, and you start to learn different ways and how to flow each time. And if you say things on the 7th podcast that you said on the 1st, it's probably better on the 7th than it was on the 1st.
100% with everything.
So you constantly are evolving. That's what the space is for.
I love that.
So yeah.
Cool.
Totally.
Well, and you got another event you said coming up too.
Yep. That's the one, Extracting Genius, Multiplying Impact, June 19th.
TEDx though.
Oh, yes. Thank you. TEDx. Yeah. So that'd be in spring 2026 right now.
Okay.
TEDx Cool Springs.
But we'll find you on social and then we can find tickets to
Oh,
that.
yeah. I'll say a ton of stuff about that event.
Yeah.
Everybody. We've ran TEDx events for the last 4 years.
Nice.
And each year we have speakers that hit the top 10 of all TEDx talks released in the given year.
Amazing.
And we're going to do the same here in the community of Franklin.
Yeah.
So really excited just to feature voices, primarily local voices. And then we'll bring a couple of big dogs from out of state.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. Like, share, rate, review, and comment. Thanks for listening.